The AI Bad Bots webinar, Understanding the 2026 Threat Landscape, presented by Chillisoft and Thales. So thank you all for taking the time to join us. We have attendees joining from across New Zealand's healthcare, banking, government, and enterprise sectors, all looking to better understand one of the fastest growing cybersecurity challenges today. Today's session, we'll be unpacking these trends, explore what they mean for New Zealand's organisations, and discuss how security leaders can prepare for the future where both users and attackers are increasingly powered by AI. Today, we're joined by an excellent panel of speakers today. First, we have Alex Tay, Group CEO of Chillisoft. We're also joined by Murket Khan, ANZ Regional Manager, Solutions Engineering at Thales, as well as Darren Beattie, Head of Information Security at Tower Insurance. And finally, we have Nelson D'Souza, the Channel Account Manager at Chillisoft, who works closely with customers and partners across New Zealand to help organizations navigate emerging cybersecurity challenges. So a bit of housekeeping for today. We have the Q&A panel to the left. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will answer them as they come through. So without further ado, we'll kick things off. I think, Murket, you'll be speaking first, I believe.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Really
No
appreciate
worries.
it. And welcome everybody. Let me just share my screen with you guys. Work on the logistics. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Guys, can you see my screen?
Yep.
That sounds good. Okay, so today, I think the most interesting topic, which is the bad bots. And I think what we have seen is that the bad bots are gone wild. I'm pretty sure everybody on this call would be facing some sort of bad bot activities in their daily life. So today we'll talk about it, what exactly is happening and why, what we are seeing and why it's important to act now. So one of the biggest reason why we are on this call today is this picture, because I feel like this is really important because it's kind of getting from traffic to risk. So when we started, for example, bot mitigation might be 10 and 12 years back, we never knew that it will become such a big problem. So for example, in this picture, if you see in 2015, there was bad bots. Definitely at that time, there was bad bots, but the traffic around bad bots was 15% only. And there were there were humans as well. And the humans were around 54%. And then there were good bots. And good bots are always there, obviously, because you have a Google bot, you have a Yahoo, you have this, and you're monitoring your websites and stuff like that. So they were always there. And they were 27%. But you can see how the trend is changing. Like 2015, things were so different. But when you look into today's world, which is 2025, you can see that 40% of the traffic is a bad bot traffic. And out of that, only 13% is good bot traffic, and 47% is the human traffic, which is a huge difference. Obviously, might be not a huge difference in a human traffic, but when you look into like a bad bot traffic, there's a huge difference from 10 years back and now. And these trends will change, keep on changing, because the reason why, because previously there were bots which were easy to block. They have signatures, you can just block them easily. But then there were bots who can mimic as humans. And when the bots start mimicking as human, it becomes very hard to block them because you cannot block them with signatures. And now the bots are using AI. So that means it's becoming more difficult to block those bots. So this report is 2026 reports, but the stats are from 2025, obviously. Next year, we'll have a report which will be 2027 report, but the stats would be from 2026. And I'm pretty sure at that time, the things will be more different than what we have today. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons why we are here today. So I'll show you some more statistics. Obviously, again, as I said, you can see the bad bot traffic, the good bot traffic. The bad bot traffic is kind of like surpassing or outpassing the human traffic, which is not a good idea. Because I was looking into stats, and I think I have some stats on the slides as well, that now if you look into the internet, I think 51 or 57% of the traffic is a bot traffic, within which there's a good traffic, good bots and bad bots are there as well. So yeah, things are changing, guys. Obviously, definitely we have to act on upon it because it's really important. Because if you look into your traffic profiles, that most of the traffic is automated traffic, and might be that's not a wanted automated traffic. And if you know, most of the customers are moving into hyperscalers. So when you move into hyperscaler, then obviously and if you have half of your traffic is a bot traffic, that means you have to pay for the resources. You have to pay for the traffic which is coming in, coming, going out. You have to pay for the CPU, RAM, and all those things because whenever a request comes in, the server or a machine or application have to serve that request, and it costs you resources. Now, some key finding. I think last year we have almost blocked 17 trillion bot traffic or bot request overall in the platform. So you can imagine in 1 year, 17 trillion is a huge amount of traffic which we have blocked, which is just related to bot only. I'm not talking about any other web apps top 10 attacks or any web apps API attacks. It's just purely bot traffic. And 21% of the bot attacks targeting business logic. Uh, and I don't know if you guys know much about business logic. For example, you might have APIs, you might have a platform which could be vulnerable to, for example, might be not authenticated, or might be like vulnerable to BOLA, which is a broken object level authorization. If you guys have seen previously, there was a lot of attack happened in Australia, and the main cause was BOLA. And these are the business logic challenges, obviously, because if there is an application and the application have a weak business logic, then hackers can attack it, and they can breach, obviously, because of those things. What we have seen is a 12.5x increase of AI-enabled bot air and over air, because obviously that's one area where a lot of customers are looking into, and because of that, hackers are looking into that area, and they're utilizing that technology to attack customers. Then I think last year we have almost blocked 20% of the traffic, which was bot traffic, was AI bot traffic. And I think it's one of the biggest concern which customers are having at the moment because they want to block even the AI bots as well because there are unwanted bots which are trying to access their websites. And as I said, 40% of the internet traffic is made up of bad bot traffic, but 53% of the traffic is a bot traffic on the internet today. So you can imagine like out of 100%, 53% traffic is just a automated traffic. Few years back, that was not the problem, but now it's a big challenge for everybody because that's might be a unwanted traffic on the internet which we want to mitigate. Okay. In that traffic, 42% are the simple bots, obviously. And as the simple bots are, okay, I'll give you an example of what is simple bot, what is a moderate bot, and what is advanced bot. So simple bots is basically where we know the behavior and we can create a signature of that behavior and we can block it. It's easy, signature is available, we know about it, we can block it. Then there are moderate bots. Moderate bots are a combination of advanced bot and a simple bot where we can block it sometime with the signature and sometimes we have to do a little bit more. But then there are advanced persistent bots. Advanced persistent bots are basically where they can mimic as humans. They can basically they can mimic as humans. They can move your mouse. They can type on the keyboard. They can basically scroll on the mobile. Things like that. And with that, basically, they are able to basically bypass your like any sort of mitigation you have because they are impersonating as humans, and they are the advanced bots. And then what we have seen is that 41% of the bot attacks using Chrome to appear as legitimate traffic. And I think this is one of the biggest problem at the moment because sometimes we see like, okay, might be a Chrome, might be a Firefox is trying to access your website, but they are not. They're trying to impersonate as Chrome because they can use Selenium, they can use Gecko and all those different tools. They can configure a version of Chrome or a Firefox or anything like that, and they say, I'm a human, but they are not human, obviously. And then 20%, 24% of the bot attacks targeting financial services sites, obviously, which is a big thing. I think there are a few people on this call which are from the financial services, and this is one of the biggest concern which we have at the moment. Obviously, one of the biggest market which we see as targeted by the bots are financial services, retail, airline industry, mining industry, and stuff like that we have seen who are heavily attacked from the bots. Then 27% of bots are targeting APIs, and that is a very interesting area. And I will talk about it in coming slides that why this is an interesting area, because API is all about automation, and obviously that's the reason bots are going after APIs. And then there are bots basically which are trying to do attacks around account takeover attacks, credential stuffing, brute force attack, and stuff like that, which is very common if you have login pages and you want to protect them, or if you have login pages, the bots are trying to attack those login pages, and then they are basically trying to see if they can penetrate by doing credential stuffing. For example, they can go and buy leak credentials from the dark web, and they can try to see if any of the credential works. If it works, they're able to access the platform and they can do what they like to do. As I said in the previous slide, that bots are impersonating as browsers, and this was one of the very common thing which we have seen. We have seen bots impersonating as Chrome, mobile Chromes, Firefox, mobile Safari, Android browser, and stuff like that. And this is becoming very difficult for us to basically block the bots because you cannot block them with signature. Because let's suppose if I have a signature, what I will do, I'll say allow Chrome, and when I will say allow Chrome, 40% of the Chrome traffic will be allowed, which is a bad bot traffic because they are impersonating as Chrome. So obviously you cannot just block them with a simple bot mitigation. You need something more sophisticated because they are impersonating at the moment. And the most common attacks from those bots are obviously general automation. As I talked about, they might be doing reconnaissance, they might be just doing a path traversal because they want to see what your directory structure, stuff like that are. They could be doing a lot of API violation. And this is again very important here because the first thing to understand around API is basically your API stack. Okay, what are the endpoints? What are the parameters? What sort of like methods you are using and all those things, and how you do it. You basically use bots. They go and they do reconnaissance. Once they know the whole stack of your API, then they can say, okay, now I can go and ahead and launch an attack. So that's the reason you have seen a lot of stuff like that. And once they do that, then obviously business logic, because APIs is all about business logics. I don't know if you guys know about what sort of business logics are there, because if you look into a web's API top 10, there are two part of the puzzle. One is basically attacks which are blocked by a web's top 10. For example, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and stuff like that. The other part of the puzzle are basically business logic issues. For example, unauthenticated API. For example, API doing a mass assignment, API is susceptible to BOLA, which is a broken object level authorization, or a BFLA, which is a broken function level authorization, or maybe the APIs are deprecated, stuff like that. So basically, these are the most important thing where we have to look into if they have a problem with the application, and if there is, the bot can basically attack those websites. So these are some of the common, you can see attacks which in the platform. But as I said, the two part of the puzzle, one is basically which we can block, or we can look into visibility. We have a visibility around WAP's top 10. The other part is basically a WAP's API top 10. Yeah, as I said in the previous slide, you can see these are the bad bots and API attack surface, because they can do data leakage, they can do basically RSA RFI, they can do business logic attacks, they can do automated attacks. Automated attacks, I'm not sure if you guys know about it. For example, one other thing which is very common nowadays, as I talked about, is account takeover. So anybody can just go download leak credentials and they can start attacking your websites, or might be they just create random username and passwords and they can start attacking your website. So they are more around automated attacks to access them. And these are the few categories, which is mostly AWAP's attack categories. We have a AWAP's top 10, which is AWAP's WAF, and we have an API. If you guys know, like I think 4 years back, even Gartner have changed their Magic Quadrant from WAF Magic Quadrant to WAP. which is a combination of a WAF and API. So that's it. Then you can see here as a WAFs category, there are two categories, which is a WAF and API. Then you have a WAFs automated threats, and then you have a DDoS threats against your application. And a WAFs talk about it. If you guys know, like maybe 10, 15 years back, it used to be only one WAFs, which is a WAFs top 10. But now if you go and look into the framework, you will find out there are multiple frameworks just because the application threat landscape is changed. Like I remember if I go back 15, 20 years, people used to implement firewalls and they used to say, happy days, no need to do anything else. But now if you look into application security, things are changed because even with having a WAF, you cannot protect your application because WAF will just do a WAF top 10. But how about the API front? How about the automated threats? How about the DDoS attack? So you need a platform which can basically do everything in a single way, you know. So that's really important to look into WAF framework, API framework, and automated threat at the same time. Now, one of the biggest problem, which we all have seen, and they are the AI bots. You know, I just talked about the advanced persistent bot, but now we have a bigger problem because now there are bots who can use AI. And obviously, it's very easy for those bots to impersonate as humans, and they can go and they can crawl your websites, they can fetch traffic from your websites, and they can do what they like to do. Even there are some good bots, good AI bots, which you feel like might be not doing a lot, but they are capturing a lot of information. Because remember, AI needs data. And when AI needs data, what they do, they go and capture the information because that's the only way they can build intelligence, you know. So I think this is one of the biggest, I would say, emerging risk which we have at the moment because there are a lot of AI bots. Some of the bots are good bots, some of the AI bots are bad bots, but they're fetching a lot of it and they are trying to build their intelligence behind that just to have a better platform. But this is causing a lot of challenges, a lot of issues for us and for every customer. So this is a kind of you can see different countries, how they're being, attacked by different bots or what sort of problem they are. Obviously, United States is a big country. That's it that you can see a lot of basically like AI bot or malicious bot trying to attack. Within US, obviously, when it comes to Australia and New Zealand is kind of combined. You can see we all have a 3%, but just remember that if you look into overall world, might be 3% is still a big amount of traffic for Australia and New Zealand because we are small countries. We have a small population. We are not compared to US or any other country around the world. At the same time, you can see on your right side, there are basically top industries. Obviously, as I said in the beginning, retail is one of the biggest industry which is attacked by AI bots, because they want to get a lot of intelligence. Then we have businesses, we have financial services, we have a travel. And I think travel is another area which is basically heavily attacked from the AI bots. Then obviously law and government. And this is exactly what we have seen in our customer base in Australia and New Zealand as well, that the retail group, the financial services, the law and government, they're heavily attacked by not only by bots, they're even attacked on the other OAP's top 10s as well, because someone's trying to do escalation, because of scripting. At the same time, there's a lot of bot traffic going onto the platform, which can bring down your applications. So yeah. Then obviously it's a tip of the iceberg because what we can see uh, that we can block, but there's a lot happening underneath it which is undetectable today. Obviously we have a platform where we are like putting a lot of intelligence behind the platform because we have something called a threat intel team who basically keep on doing research and they keep on identifying new threats, new vulnerabilities, just to make sure that the customer applications are up and running and there are no threats around those applications, and any threats are just mitigated. But obviously, as I said in the beginning, this is getting a bigger problem if you look into overall scenario that bot traffic and with the AI. I think this is going to be a bigger problem for most of the organizations around the world. Then we have AI crawlers and fetchers. As I said in the beginning, that this is the most important thing for the AI because they want to go and they want to capture information. For example, you can see in this picture, which is very interesting picture. If you look into the AI fetcher, the chat GPT is one of the biggest source of fetching information from different applications because that's the way they build intelligence. You can see Perplexity, Google Cloud, you can see all those different bots, AI bots basically, who are trying to go and fetch information. And this is something which is not wanted because maybe you don't need it. Then why you should have in this on your platform? But if you look into the current different solutions, most of the solutions are not able to block this sort of traffic because they feel like maybe ChatGPT is a good traffic, but it's not. Maybe you don't need it because you don't want them to build intelligence around your platform, but this is exactly what they're doing. And on the left side, you can see there are AI crawlers, for example, Meta, Applebot, and all those different crawlers which are basically crawling your websites, and they are gathering a lot of intelligence as well within the platform. So this is really important, obviously, guys, because and all this is available in our 2026 Bad Bot report. And if you guys like to download, you can download from the internet. But this is a really good statistic around how the AI crawlers are working, how the AI fetchers are working, and what are different categories in those bot areas. And this is again one thing which I obviously discussed previously as well. Bought by industry, obviously financial services. Obviously, the previous slides was more around AI, that what AI bot trying to do, but this is more around overall that okay how the bots are trying to attack which industry. More was obviously financial services on the top, which makes sense because that's where the money is. That's where they want to basically, if they get a hold or get access to the platform, that's where they can make more money. But obviously, financial services, business, retail, travel, they're one of the biggest target for bots because yeah, that's where the money is. Okay, so this is more around the advanced, this is more around the bad bot reports. Obviously, you guys can go and download these bad bot reports from the internet. And obviously, here we have Alex and other people as well who can provide you that report as well. But I will show you a little bit of a demo. Obviously, it's not a demo, but what I've done is that I have took some screenshots from the platform because whenever you try to do a demo, sometimes things don't work. So I just want to make sure that I have some screenshots so I can show you. And some of the people say, oh, show me because seeing is believing. So what we have in the platform, there are multiple things in the platform around just around how to identify bots, how to block them. So this is one of the most interesting, I would say, dashboard which we have available. So for example, you can see there was around 1.8 billion of total traffic. Within that traffic, there was 850, you can say, million, just a human traffic. But then you had bot traffic, which was around 950 million. And then you can see there was a AI bot traffic as well, which was around 1.8 million. And as I said, every customer is different. There would be customer who will have more AI bot traffic, or less. But this is kind of a trend you can see that this is exactly what is happening for any customer. Even on the left side, you can see what sort of traffic is there. So there are browsers, which are fine, but then there are feed fetchers. Now, these feed fetchers could be AI bots. Then there are unknown where we don't know who they are unless and until we do fingerprinting, we will not know who they are. Then there are hacking tools, there are masking proxies, and then others, obviously. So this is just like a overall picture for in the dashboard where we can say, guys, this is what we have seen as a bot traffic. But then obviously we can drill down and we can start looking into more because this is based on a simple bot mitigation. This is based on a signature. Once we identify on the basis of signature what is a good traffic, what is a bad traffic, then we can basically start digging down and do a little bit more. And what we can do here is that you can see, for example, in advanced bot mitigation, we can do fingerprinting. And when I say fingerprinting, obviously it's not a signature-based solution. In fingerprinting, we take 200 unique parameters. For example, we look into how someone is moving a mouse, how someone is tapping on the keyboard, how someone might be moving his thumb on a mobile screen. Geolocation, IP address, browser information, RAM info, all those things. And we take out this information and we create a cookie, and that cookie is basically used to identify if it's a human or a bot, and if it's a bot, if it's a good bot or a bad bot. Then what we do, we start classifying traffic. And you can see this one picture where you can see on your left side, there could be a allow list. Allow list is something where basically you can say, I have automation and I want to allow that automation. And that automation could be, you might be using a Postman, okay, from a certain IP address. Might be you're using a Terraform from a certain IP address. Might be you have a third party who are using Postman or something else like that. So you can say, I want to allow that traffic because this is unknown automation and they're supposed to be allowed. But then you have a good bot. Good bot is basically you might be doing Google Analytics, or you might be allowing Gemini or anything like that. That could be a good bot. But then you have a mitigated bot, basically, which we will mitigate automatically. But then you can see no policies. No policies means there's a traffic, but the traffic is not violating any policy. That means it could be a good traffic, but we need to look into that traffic. Then you have basically no violations as well. And then you have a suspicious traffic. Suspicious traffic is where we feel like, this could be a bad traffic. Now, what will happen? This screenshot, what you can see here, this screenshot shows that a lot of fine tuning is already done on the platform. Because of that, you can see very less suspicious traffic. But the customer who just onboard their traffic into our platform, normally the suspicious traffic is huge because we know that the traffic is not being fine-tuned or the bot traffic is not being fine-tuned. So then you can see a lot of suspicious traffic. And then we have to go into that traffic and we identify what is bad, what is good. Then what we have in the platform is high bot confidence. High bot confidence is basically where we feel like you don't have to create any policies, but we feel like it could be a bad traffic. It could be a highly bad bot traffic, and then you can take decisions on the basis of that. So this is more of another console, which is more going granular, going inside and trying to identify what sort of challenges or issues are there in the platform. Obviously, this is advanced bot mitigation. Then what we have is an AI tool. Obviously, as I said in the beginning, the AI is becoming a big problem for everybody. And this is what we have seen as trends. For example, even you can see in this picture that there's a traffic coming from every set of AI bot, ChatGPT, Meta, Apple, and Claude. And maybe you don't need this traffic in your platform because you're not dealing with ChatGPT, you're not dealing with Claude, you're not dealing with Perplexity. So why you need this traffic into your platform? What this traffic is doing is that it's increasing the usage of your resources. Because if you are running your platform on a hyperscaler, as I said in the beginning, every request which comes to your platform, a RAM is utilized, a disk is utilized, resources are utilized, and then you have to pay for the ingress traffic as well. So that means your bill is going up and up. So you need to have a visibility around these sort of bots, that who are the bots or AI bots trying to access your platform, and are they wanted or not wanted. If they're not wanted, you can just go and block them because that's unwanted traffic into your platform. Then what we have in the platform is something called as Apollo models, because obviously there is a human intelligence where we know, okay, these are bad bots and we need to block them. But at the same time, we have built some ML models in the platform where basically we can identify them automatically. As I said in the beginning, that we do fingerprinting and we create a cookie. Now that cookie is basically used to identify if it's a good bot or a bad bot or a human traffic. Now, when we say fingerprinting and identifying if they have a good behavior, bad behavior, that means we use Apollo models. For example, in this picture, you can see on your right side, there are a lot of Apollo models running, for example, heavy scrapers, high volume day account take avoiders, for example, web scraping and stuff like that. So then we can automatically identify that they are the bad bot traffic because they could be under heavy scraper, or they could be basically doing some sort of like capture farming and stuff like that. So we use those ML models and we identify automatically if they are bad bots and if they are a bad bot traffic. Once we do that, we can even identify, as I said in the beginning, that from where the traffic is coming. Is it coming from Zscaler? Is it coming from different ISPs, coming from AWS, from Azure? Because remember one thing, nowadays it's very easy to basically hide yourself from any sort of like identification, because I can just go into the internet, I can go to the AWS and I can spin a machine there, and I can just put a residential proxy there, and then what I can do is that I can start sending traffic. Now what will happen? Nobody will know from where I'm coming. I could be coming from like a region from US using a residential proxy from might be Russia, and then sending traffic to Australia. So nobody would be able to identify me from where the traffic is coming in. And that's the reason we even identify, okay, what sort of ISPs are being used? Is it like hyperscalers or not hyperscalers, all those sort of things. So then you can exactly see, because the whole idea is that to get the idea about what is the traffic trend and how can I block it, you know. Yeah, that's it from my side. Obviously, I had 20 minutes, so I want to finish in 20 minutes. If there's any question, guys, please put the questions in the chat. I will definitely answer it. But now I'll hand it over to Mr. Alex Tay.
Thank you, Mikit. Very informative. Really appreciate your insightfulness as usual. First and foremost, thank you, Darren, for joining us today. Your insights from an FSI lens is always very much appreciated and welcomed. As we've seen from Mikit's presentation, Darren, there is obviously an explosion of Gen AI tools out there. It seems like the number of bad bots being created has become extremely prolific. I certainly didn't recognize the level of prolificness until I read the report. From a New Zealand perspective, are you seeing those kind of trends in the FSI community, and what's the gossip with the guys with the sizes in FSI?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alex, for having me today. From an FSI perspective, we are seeing a prolific of Gen AI tools and the bad bots coming through. Again, as Makit said, it's a case of distinguishing what's bad, what's good, what's just noise. But also, you can actually go and create your own little AI bot quite quickly today. So, do you really want to have your website to be allowed to be talked to by ChatGPT bot? Yes or no? Yes, from a scraping perspective to help marketing, so forth. But therefore, people can create tools to start interrogating the code that you run on your website, to start doing that surveillance. So unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword. One minute it's good for you, next minute it's bad for you, but it's the same thing. In New Zealand in general, because I always say we're strung together by 8 milliseconds from each other, we are seeing an increase in general in the New Zealand region of, shall we say, noise knocking at the front door to see what's going on, and we've seen that with some recent breaches and so forth that's happening. But yeah, it is a changing world in how we try and protect ourselves and keep on top of what's going on with these different types of bots that's happening. And again, distinguishing what's good, what's bad, what do we want to allow, what do we not want to allow, and so forth.
Nice. Actually, thanks for that, Darren. We're just going to pivot to a question Mohammed has actually asked us. Originally, he asked whether Imperva can tell us what AI bots are hitting the websites, and I've actually mentioned that yes, if you're an Imperva user, will get visibility of the AI tools that are using bots on your websites. Mukit, can you confirm if actually they actually need advanced bot protection for that capability, or you provide that visibility already? Maybe you can expand a little bit more around what advanced bot protection gives customers.
Yeah. So basically, as I said in the beginning, there are two parts of the puzzle: simple bot mitigation or a simple bot or advanced bot. So in a simple bot, we give you an ability to basically block the AI bots. So we have something called as client classification, where you can go and create a policy and say, I want to block this AI bot. You can do that. But when it comes to visibility, where you want a full picture, okay, if ChatGPT is coming to your platform and stuff like that, that is only available in the advanced bot mitigation. Because there's a reason, because in advanced bot mitigation, we do fingerprinting. It's not only based on signature, it's based on fingerprinting. As I said in the beginning, that bots can impersonate as a browser or as any other platform, because it's easy to use your signature. So that's the reason that the whole picture or full information around which bot is trying to access your website, that is available in the advanced bot mitigation, because that's where we do fingerprinting.
So just to confirm, Makit, when you say fingerprinting, essentially Thales Imperva has uniquely fingerprinted that specific chat bot so that you can accurately provide visibility around that specific chat bot.
Absolutely. And we do on runtime. So it's not that we always, whenever traffic comes in, the first thing we do is a fingerprinting. and we fingerprint. And sometimes what can happen is that, for example, the traffic coming in from certain IP address, and someone can go and change their fingerprint, So we basically keep on creating that cookie every 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes we fingerprint, every 5 minutes we fingerprint, because we don't want that. Let's suppose we fingerprint a cookie and that cookie has good behavior. And then someone can take out the cookie and then he can replay because now we say it's a good cookie. But then he started embedding a bad traffic within that cookie. So that means he will be allowed. So what we do is that we keep on fingerprinting that session just to make sure there's nothing malicious coming from there.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yep. And I can just add into that, just for Mohammed's sake, is on our site, I'm seeing things like Petalbot as an example. So that's used for Huawei services. We're doing their web calling. Byte Spider, and that's used for the old TikTok and ByteDance. Apple, Chatbot. We talked about APIs. Chatbot is being used around to try and find out, hey, what APIs are being used in your platform, to try and obviously use that for the next level of attack. And that detail comes from the advanced bot protection. So I do get that granular view, and I can pick and choose what I want to do for those relevant types of bots.
I hate to say this, Darren, as we've been good friends now for a little while, but you seem to be able to read into the future. Last year, we actually looked at the amount of bots coming into your environment, but most importantly, according to Mukit now, these bots are pivoting from just scraping to targeting vectors like APIs. Why did you see this as being a growing security threat and an issue in your environment that you wanted to cover?
If you think the way that different companies and systems are integrating and talking to each other now, it's very much everyone has started to move into that API world. And we've seen it sort of 5-6 years ago, where we're starting to create these pathways of doing it. And when you get a technology like that at a path, it will just explode. And everyone will start jumping on that particular bandwagon. But of course, if we jump on it as a business perspective to do transactions with customers, the attackers will do the same. They want to try and interrogate. So in the days where we would see a website being compromised with SQL injection, we've moved on from that. We've moved into the APIs. What's unauthenticated? What data is inside your APIs? Is there any additional data we can get? And just by using that API to target a company and get a whole bunch of data and exfiltrate it out legally, effectively, because you're allowing it. So by having that API protection across and really understand who's connecting to that API, is it authenticated? Is it not? What privileges are they accessing to? What data is in there? What data can they post into it? So you've got another mechanism where you could actually compromise an organization purely by manipulating those APIs. Mm-hmm. And so having that level of protection across it and really understanding what APIs are exposed into your environment is absolutely key.
And I just want to add one thing here, Alex, if you allow me. So basically, Darren, you made a very good point around SQL injection, for example, stuff like that. So see, SQL injection vulnerability is there might be for 25 years, might be 30 years, because WAP's top 10 is talking about this might be 30 years back. And every 5 years, they publish their WAP's top 10, even the API top 10. And SQL injection, cross-site scripting is on the top. And being human, we are building application, but still our applications are vulnerable to SQL injection, cross-site scripting. And this is an easy fix, but we are not able to fix it because the vulnerabilities are there. And when you come to API have much more business logic challenges because SQL injection is not a business logic challenge, whereas API have a business logic challenge. So that means you won't be able to fix them in the future as well, So you need something more sophisticated to, first of all, identify what is happening and then basically go and block them as well, So just want to highlight that,
Keep those questions coming in. We have an anonymous question that's fit for you, Mukit. How does advanced bot protection protects APIs which doesn't support JavaScript?
That's not a problem because obviously at the end of the day, remember one thing, we do fingerprinting, and when we create a cookie, it's a first party cookie. It's not a third party cookie. If even you have APIs, they're not supporting JavaScript because API is not about JavaScript. API is more around are they REST APIs or a SOAP and stuff like that. So what we do is that the traffic is being terminated on our platform, and then we can look into if it's a HTML traffic or if it's a API traffic. And then obviously we have mitigation mechanism within the platform around bot, advanced bot, simple bot, and that's basically how we can mitigate. And remember one thing, API is all about automation. A human will never touch an API. So even if a human wants to touch it, he might use a Postman or Terraform and stuff like that. So the API is all about automation. You just need to make sure is a good automation or a bad automation.
Right, right. Actually, that was something we learned in our practice, or I learned in our practice session last week, is that the bad guys are actually targeting the automation via the APIs. And from your experience, Mukit, how prolific is API usage now inside web applications? I kind of know the answer, but I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, so I'll give you a bit of an example. Like before COVID, the API traffic within the web traffic was 23%. You know, Nowadays the API traffic within the web traffic is around 94%.
Yeah,
It is huge. It's a huge shift, from
yeah,
non-API to API. So you can imagine what is happening.
yeah, yeah. And so for existing customers and partners of Imperva Thales, you should be aware that Mukit is able to weave some magic and produce some amazing API and bot reporting in your environment. So please reach out to your account managers for us to be able to build out that kind of reporting for you to take to your board. While I've got you talking, Mukit, Mythos, Fable 5. That's on the tip of everybody's tongue right now. When I asked you what's Imperva Thales's reaction towards Mythos, what did you actually say to us?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Everybody's asking us this question. Actually, we are meeting a lot of customers and talking about the mythos as well. So when you look into the mythos, so actually we are even a part of basically
Glasswing.
yeah, we are part of a group where basically we review mythos basically identification stuff like that. So, the companies who are building their stack using like open source technology or third-party tools, they're very much vulnerable to Mythos because Mythos can go and identify all those vulnerabilities. The good thing about Imperva or Thales is that we have built our stack from the scratch, down up. So we haven't used any third-party tools or open source stuff like that. Whatever we have done in the platform is basically done from the scratch. So we have done the analysis and all those things. So that means our platform is not basically vulnerable to Mythos because so there are not many vulnerabilities there in the platform. Obviously, because there's a whole process, we're building from the scratch. But any platform which is being built on the open source or third parties, definitely they would be more vulnerable to Mythos. And obviously, we are doing customer briefs around Mythos, that how we are managing it, what is the outcome, and how we are dealing with it. And if any customer wants any sort of a session with us, we can have a 1 hour session and we can showcase you that how we are doing it.
That sounds extremely different from customers and partners using on-prem firewalls or on-prem WAFs that are now susceptible to Mythos.
Yeah. Because
Because firewall vendors, they don't build vulnerabilities in their firewalls at all, do they?
yeah, so obviously they must have a system on the back end to identify some vulnerabilities. But remember one thing, what is happening at the moment. Most of the vendors, they're buying third-party solutions, they're integrating within the platform. And when you keep on doing that, that becomes a bigger challenge for you because now you have a different set of code running in your platform. And it's very hard to identify vulnerabilities and fix those vulnerabilities because you have might be 5, 10 different vendors code within your platform. And it becomes a challenge.
And you've got version OSs on those on-prem firewalls and WAFs as well,
Yeah,
which makes it more complicated to keep updating all your firewalls and your WAFs, right? If
absolutely.
they're on-prem. Good. Darren, back to you. The report that Mukit is talking about is showing that the AI tools are currently doing a lot of surveillance. They're using it to train AI models, Should we be concerned about this trend?
Yes and no. I mean, some of those models are being used from a marketing perspective. So again, it's an
So why do we want
opportunity.
to help the marketers, Darren?
Exactly. We want to help promote the company and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah,
But then you've also got some of those models who could be going into actually, let's see if we can reverse engineer how a company divides its pricing regime.
yeah,
So you probably have to go in and look at what some of the outputs would be that they're using for that, to then determine what you want to do. I mean, we cannot control. The fact is that if we allow a particular model to be trained using our website, that model not used further on into malicious material.
yeah.
Again, do you block them all?
Can't.
You can't. It is a challenge. Again, I think if we've got levels of protection across to understand that we're seeing a lot more noise from particular AI bots, that we can actually just go, no, we're not comfortable with that, and stop that behavior from happening. So those particular models do not get trained on our data as such.
Yeah.
And again, as Makit mentioned earlier on, there's a cost to that because they keep hammering the website, and you got the traffic costs associated with it.
Yeah.
So it's is it going to get any better? No, because there's going to be more and more models that are specifically trained. In my case, in the insurance industry, we'll get a model that's look for, risk pricing and the value of housing and stuff like that to actually help generate a good consumer model.
Yeah.
So that they'll get the right price.
Yeah.
But that's also a disadvantage from a competitive point of view. So how do we move on with that? It's tricky. We do have to allow them, but we can control ones that are extremely noisy. For instance, as the stats show, ChatGPT bot is extremely noisy. So again, we just block that one, allow some of the others.
Yeah.
I think what important here is that just to add on Darren's Beatty thing, that visibility. Let's suppose if you have a chat GPT trying to access your website, you need to have a visibility what exactly it's doing, how many requests coming into your platform, and which URL. So I'll give you an example of one of the customer which I dealt might be at start of the year. It was not around only AI bot. So they allowed Meta, Pinterest, and a Google bot into their platform. So because that was a requirement from the digital team, because they want to have a good user experience, and they say, allow these bots. And the traffic jumped from 400 Mbps to 2.8 gig, So I saw the traffic, and then we did some investigations. And what we found is that the Pinterest was sending 4 million requests in one day, which was sending their bandwidth utilization 2.8 gig. And we reached back to the customer and said, Mr. Customer, why this is happening? Oh, digital team have asked us to allow it. But I said, okay, we are giving you visibility that Pinterest is sending 4 million requests in one day. Why you need 4 million requests from Pinterest in one day? You don't need that. But that is something which you need to fix it, because your traffic is going from 400 Mbps to 2.8 gig. And then they realize, oh, Pinterest is playing with us, So then what they did is they scale it down. They say, okay, Pinterest can only send might be 100,000 requests per month, per day, something like that. So this is the reason that visibility is really important as well. Because if you don't have a visibility, you will not know what ChatGPT is doing, what some other bots are doing in your platform,
Look, at the end of last year in December, we saw some very, very targeted bot attacks to a can't be disclosed government agency. Can you explain what happened and how that problem continued even though they were manually trying to mitigate against those issues until they upgraded?
Yeah, so it was a bot attack. So basically what was happening was they had certain pages which were obviously customer facing or pages or citizen facing pages. And there were continuous bot traffic coming to those platforms. They were running their stack on the hyperscaler, and they had a bit of auto scaling on the back end, but not a lot. For example, if you have 1,000 requests coming to your platform, might be you will need one server. And if there are 2,000 requests in your platform, you might need another server as well. But how much you can auto scale? You cannot go to up to 50 servers or 100 servers because that's too much. What was happening with them was that, like in a normal day, they might get 10,000 requests per day, but they were getting like millions and millions of requests per day into the platform. Because of that, they were not doing a hyperscaling on the backend because that was too much resources required and the internet traffic was too much. So what was happening? The application performance was going down because the application is getting too many requests. It cannot auto scale and the application was down. So when a legitimate user goes to the platform, he was not able to access the resources which he was looking for. So that is exactly what was happening. Then obviously we got engaged. We looked into the traffic. We start blocking the bad traffic. And from a day one, we were able to bring down all those bad noise and only legitimate traffic was allowed to back to the users. And they didn't require any auto scaling and stuff like that. So obviously at one point they were not able to serve the customers and they were paying too much to the hyperscalers. And obviously, once we start mitigating the bad bot traffic, they were able to serve the users and they were able to bring down their bills as well for hyperscalers.
And in that particular case, do you believe the hackers or the attackers was specifically targeting that New Zealand government agency?
Absolutely,
And they
absolutely,
were changing their attack vectors or
absolutely.
creating new bots specifically to target that environment?
Absolutely. They were changing their behavior. They were moving proxies. They were moving IP addresses. So they were not coming from one place. When we did the analysis, they were coming from around 50 different countries, you know,
50.
50 different countries. They kept on changing their IP addresses, their behavior. They were moving around. Obviously, they were using residential proxies and stuff like that. But they kept on changing because that's the way people do. And there's one thing very interesting thing, obviously, because that's not being launched yet. But we have something called as proof of work. That's available in beta. Now, in proof of work, what happens is that if we know it's a bot, we give a challenge to a bot, and bot has to go and solve that challenge. It's not a capture challenge. It's not a cookie challenge. It's basically some algorithm. So when a bot will go and try to solve that challenge, he needs more resources. And for the hackers, it's become very expensive to solve the challenge. And then they say, "Oh, thank you very much. I don't want to come to you." So that's a way you can start putting burden on the people or bad people who are trying to use those bots to attack your website because now they have to pay more money to hyperscalers rather than the customer. So that's
So,
that's another way of mitigating it.
so the audience can understand the scale of this problem. These attacks were causing up to 300 million page requests per month. So really, really expensive stuff to ignore.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And the
Darren?
beauty with that particular side is that the fact of putting Imperva into that, it moved that traffic completely away from the hyperscaler side of it. So straight away you save money, just by putting Imperva in front, because you're moving that traffic totally away from them. So
Yeah. And Imperva or Thales' irreplaceable benefit is the fact that they're blocking a lot of these attacks at source. So rather than letting all of it come to New Zealand before you block it, blocking it in Ukraine, blocking it in Russia, blocking it in Brazil, using the POPs that Imperva Thales has built all around the world certainly saves them, makes it more effective for them to do this protection. Right, Darren?
yep, it definitely does.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's all the questions I have. And we are dead on the hour, which is fantastic. Is there any last words, Makit or Darren, you'd like to speak to the audience about?
Uh,
Or any last minute questions the audience would like to ask us?
yeah, I just want to say one thing that if anybody needs anything, please reach out to us. We are more than happy to help. As Alex said in the beginning, if you're existing customers, we can help you to generate these reports as well, which will give you a good visibility around your API traffic or a bot traffic. Yeah, please reach out to us anytime. Thank you very much.
All good. We will stay online for another few minutes, just in case people are trying to type questions and they're a slow typer. But outside of that, thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and thank you, Darren, again.
Oh,